Hello. My name is Eileen. You're listening to the Flip Flop Family podcast. If it's the first time you've tuned in and decided to listen, thank you so much for being here. We talk about all things to do with the family, self-motivation, life in general, things that are just going around in my brain that I would just love to get out there and voice and talk with you. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm feeling good. How are you feeling? I hope you're having a brilliant day so far, a brilliant week. I'm getting over some sickness. I'm not still 100%, but so much better. And I'm very thankful for good health right now. I'm thankful for the birds singing, and I'm thankful that it's not raining. What are you thankful for today? I'd love to know. Remember, you can get in touch with us. You can comment on this podcast. You can also get in touch on all the socials, on Instagram, on the Flip Flop Family. We also have lots of other socials on Facebook, also on TikTok and all the different podcasting platforms. Just search the Flip Flop Family and you will find us. It is great to be here today. And the thing that I wanted to talk to you about was how we as humans, and I think it is quite a common thing amongst us, we tend to remember the good times. And maybe you aren't one of those people. Maybe you're a glass half empty kind of person and you struggle to remember the good times. But in our household, we have this tendency to remember the good times in various experiences, scenarios, situations. And we tend to forget, or perhaps the bad times or the difficult moments aren't as poignant as the good times. And it really got me thinking, because this week I was lying in the garden for the first time. I had a nice cushion behind my back. The sun was on my face. It felt lovely. I was having a nice cup of tea. I could hear the birds, a gentle breeze. It was just perfect conditions, you know? And I was lying there, and then I almost felt like it was too quiet. And I thought, oh, it'd be quite nice if the kids were here, you know, like when they were younger and they were just kind of, you know, bobbing about. And my wish kind of came true. Zach appeared in the garden with his football and was like, "Mommy, please, like, have a look, watch me. I'm doing kick-ups." And I was like, I kind of like was enjoying having my eyes closed and basking in the sun. But he kept asking me to watch him. So then I was watching him. And then he finished that and started just kicking the ball against the wall. And all I could hear was bang, bang, bang. And all of a sudden, I didn't really want him to be outside. Love you, Zach, if you're listening. Love you. But I was enjoying that moment. But see how I just remembered the good times just there. I remembered how nice it is to have the kids in the garden, to hear their laughter and messing about and having fun with them. But I also forgot that kids can be annoying sometimes. And when you want to have a peace and quiet and they want your attention and they want to make noise, it then disrupts that. So that's really the premise of today's little chit chat, I guess. I kind of thought about all situations, and Ben is a real culprit for this, because you may know that if I said to Ben, let's go for it, let's try for another baby, he would be like on it, yeah, because he wants lots of children and we have two, and we're very happy and we feel very blessed. Of course, we have one boy and one girl, but he would love more children. If I could give him one more, he would be over the moon. But I always say to Ben, you have this tendency to just remember the good times. And I think with children, I'm probably a bit more real than he is. So he just thinks that, like, you know, it's all the nice times when they're happy and smiling and you're enjoying the hugs and you're chilling with them, watching a movie, or, you know, you're outside in the garden playing sports with them. But it's like he forgets the sleepless nights when they're ill, the constant need for things, like they need to be fed all the time, or they need your attention, or they just need, they're like, just need your time. The time suckers, aren't they, children? And lovely, of course, there are so many amazing things about having children, but it's funny how Ben literally does not remember the difficult times whatsoever. He'll say stuff like, there was this one time we were at a engagement or a wedding, and I was sort of enjoying a nice glass of wine, and the kids were off playing, doing their own thing because they were older. And Ben saw our friend, and she was sitting at the table breastfeeding her baby. And Ben was just sitting there and like, not, this sounds really like creepy now. He wasn't staring at her. He was just like in awe, like he just loves babies and, you know, all that. So he was like, "Oh my God, babe." And he looked at the woman, looked at me, and he was like, "Babe, that could be you." And like, I don't know what kind of response he expected from me, but I was like, "Yeah, but this is me." And I kind of pointed to my glass of wine, like living my best life, you know. In his mind, that is so beautiful. But it's like, yeah, because you're not doing it. And don't get me wrong, I loved breastfeeding, but at the same time, I love chilling and, you know, having fun with my kids being a bit older. But anyway, I may be digressing here, but the point is we all have this habit just to remember the good times. And I wanted to figure out why that was, because we do it a lot in our house. I don't know if you do, but we do it a lot. We tend to remember the good times more readily than the bad times, and that is due to a combination of psychological and cognitive biases. So pleasant events often outnumber the unpleasant ones, and our brains process positive emotions in a way that makes them persist longer in memory, which makes total sense. It's this part of a process called minimization. So we tend to downplay the negative experiences, which can be quite dangerous as well, actually, because you kind of need to remember the negative experience, don't you? But we want to really maintain a positive outlook. Additionally, nostalgia effect and rosy retrospection further contribute to this tendency, making us recall the past, especially relationships, more fondly than the present. I mean, that is actually quite dangerous, isn't it? If you just remember relationships in a fond way, especially ones that were toxic and not very good for you. But if we look at this in a bit more detail, there's this pleasure and emotion in memory. So positive emotions tend to stick longer, and that's because they're vividly recalled and stored in our memory. We're more likely to kind of be like, oh, do you remember that time when Zach was bouncing on the trampoline? You know, whereas you may not be like, oh, do you remember that time when Emiliana fell off the table? You may be less likely to talk about that. Actually did happen, sadly. She's okay. But yeah, you know, like you're more likely to do that. So the whole minimization things is our brains have they're naturally minimize the negative aspects of our memories to help us cope with unpleasant situations and maintain a positive mindset. So our brains and our bodies are super smart really about what they're doing. But I just think that sometimes you need to remember the difficult and the bad times. Then there's cognitive biases, so the nostalgia effect. We tend to remember the past more fondly, often recalling it as it better than it actually was. So it's a bit like Chinese whispers, you know, if you tell the same story like 10 times, it keeps changing and perhaps keeps getting better, and you could end up with a completely different story to how it originated. I've got friends like that who tend to kind of play up things, and it's just maybe they obviously have the nostalgia effect more than others. Then you've got the rosy retrospection. So this bias leads us to see the past through a more positive lens. I actually did a podcast called Rose Tinted Glasses, and I think that's definitely all about this rosy retrospection. And we especially in relationships tend to do that, and we need to find a way to be a bit more real, I think, when it comes to that. The impact of relationship dynamics, so focusing on the good. When reminiscing about past relationships, our brains tend to focus on the positive aspects, even if the relationship had negative periods. So we've touched on this. We need to not do this. Idealization. We may idealize past relationships, remembering the good times more vividly and downplaying negative aspects. And that is clearly what I'm talking about. This whole idealization of like times, experiences. So having children in the early years, only remembering the really good times and maybe not remembering the bad times. Then you've got psychological benefits, so resilience. Remembering positive experiences can help us to cope with current challenges and maintain a positive outlook. I think that's probably something that I definitely do. And it does help, really, doesn't it, to give you resilience? Because if you do always remember the hard times, it just kind of bashes you down, doesn't it? And it's hard to be able to cope with what's going on if you just think of like how difficult things have been in the past. For well-being as well, so reliving happy memories can boost our mood and our overall well-being. In essence, our brains are wired to prioritize positive experiences and memory, helping us to maintain a sense of hope and resilience in the face of life's challenges. And I feel like there is so many challenges in life, so I guess our body and our brain's way of doing this is helping us day to day. But I just find it really funny. I mean, we did it again recently. So we did a camper van around New Zealand for a month when the children were younger on our year of travel. And again, we really struggled to remember the difficult times, but then only a couple of weeks ago, we got a camper van and went to Cornwall. Well, we weren't even in Cornwall for that long, to be honest, but we kind of went London to Bristol to Devon to Cornwall. And there were some negatives. There were some difficult moments. You know, you can listen to our podcast all about camping, camper van life, and the pros and cons are in there. But we didn't really remember them, and we took a lot of videos. You can check out our YouTube channel, the Flip Flop Family, and there is lots of videos about our camper van life experience, lots of reviews of campsites and the actual van that we used around New Zealand. And even when we watched them, like, we're filled with joy, maybe because the kids are younger, and New Zealand was just such an amazing country, beautiful, vast, you don't see people for miles, and maybe it's all of that played into our memory, and we didn't think about it. But when we had our Easter lunch last week, we were watching some of the videos. I'm not sure why. Oh, I know why. We were playing the song that the kids and Ben made for me for my 40th, and then it kept rolling on to other videos that we'd made on YouTube. So we watched this one in the camper van, and the first thing my sister said was, "You stayed in that for a month." And now when I think about it, yeah, a whole month in a camper van. And it was bigger than the one that we used when we went to Cornwall. But imagine living in a camper van. I'm talking about like a space that is no bigger than, slightly higher than your average van, but no bigger in length or width than an average van. And 2 adults, 2 children, and all our luggage that we took around the world for a year, 1 month in a camper. Yeah, there was definitely challenges. But in the moment when we decided to get a camper and go around Cornwall for a week, those challenges were nowhere to be seen or heard or remembered. Thankfully, there was fun to be had, and you can check out our reels on our Instagram page, the Flip Flop Family, if you'd like to have a look. And I will be sure to do a podcast all about an itinerary if you fancy a road trip to Cornwall from London. So this week, my dish of the week has got to be, well, I say dish, it's a dessert really, and it's Minnie's brownies. So Emiliana is kind of our in-house baker. Bless her, she's a good baker, and she does keep us all well fed when it comes to desserts. And she's been making these chocolate brownies for a while now, and whenever my brother is coming over, he requests that she makes these brownies. No matter how heavy our dinners are, our Sunday lunches are, he always wants brownies, and we all do. Really good with some cream, some berries, and yeah, no chit chat on the table when there are brownies to be eaten, because everyone's just like and enjoying them. So check it out on the Flip Flop Family kitchen page. I will put that recipe up there if you fancy making some brownies today or at any time. My savvy tip of this week is one all about smelling good. Now, we all like to smell good, don't we? And sometimes it does come at a premium, especially if you're one of those that likes those premium fragrances. So if you pop down to Superdrug, you can buy yourself a perfume pod atomizer, which is $7.99 to £8. You can buy a perfume pod atomizer and you get free refills. So most of the perfumes, as long as they've got the right sort of nozzle that they can refill for you, in Superdrug, the first time when you buy one, you can get your first refill for free. So you can choose with the perfume that you like, and as long as they have the nozzle, they will fill up that pod for you. And I think you get something like on average 60 sprays in that atomizer. So if you do like a really expensive perfume and they can refill it for you, then that is a seriously savvy tip. I'm actually going to go and get myself one. I want to get myself a few actually, because they're great to just keep in the car and your handbag, just having these nice fragrances at ease in a small little pod, especially for traveling as well. They're really good too. So check it out. Superdrug perfume pod atomizer, £7.99, and get your free refill of the fragrance that you like. And remember where you heard it, right here on the Flip Flop Family podcast. My song of the week is an old school one. It's Brandy, Top of the World, featuring Mace. I just love that tune. It's kind of playing in my head right now. That's my kind of soundtrack of the week. So have a listen. And remember, all the songs that we feature on the Flip Flop Family podcast can be found on our Spotify album, which is the Flip Flop Family Song of the Week. Simple as that. So make sure you check it out. This week is actually London Marathon Week, and that is because the marathon is going to take place on Sunday, the 27th of April. It's a 2-hour marathon on the streets of London. So if you are planning to be out and about, just remember to check it out, because there may be some disruption, or why not go ahead and cheer on the runners. I mean, I commend them. I just couldn't do a marathon. I'm just not a runner. I love being fit, but I just cannot run. So if you are one of those people that have been training, or perhaps you are a runner, kudos to you. Good luck to everybody who's taking part in the London Marathon. I'm Xylene, and this is the Flip Flop Family podcast. I really hope that you've enjoyed listening, because I've absolutely loved talking to you, and I will see you again on Monday. All the best. Have a great week. Bye bye.